The emergency signal cut through the vast darkness of space like a scream. It bounced from relay to relay, reaching every corner of the Galactic Council's communication network. Inside the grand chamber of the Council station, representatives from 40 different species watched the holographic display with growing unease. Ambassador Thronak of the Vrelian Empire studied the data with his 4 eyes. His scales shifted from calm blue to troubled gray. "This is very bad," he said, his translator device converting his clicks into standard galactic. "Very, very bad." The display showed a colony ship called the Peaceful Dawn. It carried 3,000 Zentari civilians, mothers, fathers, children. They were traveling to a new settlement world when their engines failed. Now they were caught in the gravity well of a planet that made Thronak's blood run cold. "Classification?" asked Council Speaker Marash, her tentacles coiling nervously. "Death world. Class 12. The room fell silent. High gravity. Toxic atmosphere. Extreme weather patterns. Indigenous predators capable of ripping through standard hull plating. The technician's voice shook slightly. "The planet is called Infernus Prime for a reason." Another ambassador spoke up. "How long do they have?" 4 hours until their orbit decays completely. Maybe 5 if they vent atmosphere to reduce mass. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Every species present understood what this meant. The Zentari were gentle people. They evolved on a low-gravity garden world where the most dangerous animal was roughly equivalent to an Earth rabbit. They had no chance of surviving on that planet below. None at all. "We must send rescue teams immediately," said the Zentari representative, his voice breaking with emotion. Thronak looked at him with genuine sadness. "My friend, I wish we could. But look at the conditions. The gravity alone would crush our rescue teams. The atmospheric storms would tear our ships apart before we even reach them. This is a death world. It would kill any rescue force we send. So we do nothing? We let them die?" The council speaker raised her primary tentacles for silence. "We are not abandoning them. We are being realistic. If we send teams, we lose both the colonists and our rescuers. We must consider the mathematics of survival." The Zentari ambassador slumped in his chair. Around the chamber, other species nodded sadly. It was horrible, but it was logical. 3,000 lives would be lost. Adding more deaths would not honor them. This was the cold calculus of space. Sometimes there were no good choices. The distress signal continued broadcasting. It reached beyond council space, spreading through the relay network like ripples in water. Most species that heard it marked it as a tragedy and moved on. What else could they do? Then the signal reached human space. The UESS Indomitable was a human search and rescue vessel, one of dozens that patrolled the frontier zones. It was 3 days out from the nearest human colony when Communications Officer Chen jerked upright at her station. "Captain, I'm picking up a distress call. Colony ship engine failure degrading orbit." Captain Maria Santos looked up from her reports. She was a short woman with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her face carried the scars of 20 years in space. "How far?" 16 hours at maximum burn." "But Captain," Chen hesitated, "you need to see the planetary data." Santos crossed to the communication station. She read the scrolling information in silence. Her jaw tightened. "Class 12 Death World, lovely. The council already declined to respond, ma'am. They classified it as unrecoverable." Santos stared at the data for a long moment. Behind her, the bridge crew went about their duties, but she could feel them watching, waiting for her decision. She thought about Earth. Beautiful, deadly Earth. The planet that spawned humanity had tried to kill their ancestors every single day. Predators, diseases, weather that could freeze or cook a human in hours, gravity that crushed, oceans that drowned. And yet humans survived. They did more than survive. They thrived. "Chen, send a response. Tell them we're coming." "Ma'am," the council said. "I don't care what the council said." Santos turned to face her crew. "There are 3,000 people on that ship. They have children, families. They're dying, and everyone else decided it was too hard to save them." She paused. "Since when do humans let too hard stop us?" Her pilot, Lieutenant Jackson, grinned. "Never, Captain. Exactly. Engineering, I need maximum burn. I don't care if you have to duct tape the engines together. Navigation, plot the fastest course. Medical, prep for mass casualties. We're going in." The crew erupted into motion. There was no debate, no hesitation. Santos watched them work and felt a fierce pride. This was what humans did. This was who they were. Across the galaxy, monitoring stations picked up the Indomitable's response transmission. In the council chambers, alarms chimed. Ambassador Thronak brought up the display. Who responded? Asked Mirash. A human vessel. They say they will attempt rescue. The chamber fell silent again, but this time it was different. Several species leaned forward. Others pulled up data files on humans and their homeworld. Earth. Another death world. Class 10, some said. Class 11, according to others. They're actually going, someone whispered. They'll die, said another. Nothing can survive those conditions. But Thronak remembered something. A report he'd read about humans, about their search and rescue operations, about how they went into situations that made no logical sense, about how they kept coming, kept fighting, kept trying even when mathematics said they should fail. Perhaps, Thronak said quietly, we are about to learn something new about Deathworlders. The Indomitable burned through space at speeds that made the engines scream. In the cargo bay, the crew prepared equipment that no other species would dare use on a Class 12 world. In the mess hall, someone posted a handwritten sign. 3,000 people. 0 left behind. Captain Santos stood on the bridge and watched the stars streak past. Somewhere ahead, people were dying. Somewhere ahead, children were crying. Somewhere ahead, a colony ship was falling from the sky. But the Deathworlders were coming and the galaxy was watching. The Indomitable dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Infernus system. On the bridge, every screen lit up with warnings. Red alerts cascaded across the displays like a waterfall of danger. Mother of God, whispered Jackson at the helm. The readings aren't wrong. It's actually worse than the data said. Captain Santos gripped her chair armrest. Through the viewport, she could see the planet. It was beautiful in a terrible way. Massive storm systems wrapped around it like angry serpents. Lightning arced between clouds the size of continents. Even from this distance, the planet seemed to radiate menace. Status of the colony ship? Chen's fingers flew across her console. Found them. The Peaceful Dawn. Their orbit is decaying faster than predicted. We have 90 minutes. Maybe less. 90 minutes. Santos felt her stomach tighten. Can we reach them in time? If we burn straight in and don't worry about coming back out easily, said Jackson. Then that's what we do. Santos opened a channel. All hands, this is the captain. We have one shot at this. 90 minutes to pull 3,000 people off a dying ship in orbit around a hell planet. I won't lie to you. This is going to be the hardest thing any of us have ever done. But those people down there are counting on us. So let's show them what humans can do. Across the galaxy, dozens of species watched through long-range sensors. The Council had cameras and monitoring equipment throughout this sector. Now every ambassador, every military officer, every scientist with security clearance was glued to their screens. They watched the small human ship accelerate toward the planet. They're insane, someone said in the council chamber. Or brave, replied Thronak. Perhaps both. The Indomitable hit the upper atmosphere like a bullet. The ship shook violently. Warning klaxons blared. Santos felt her teeth rattle in her skull. This was worse than combat, worse than anything. Hull temperature rising, called out Chen. We're taking atmospheric damage. Keep going, Santos ordered. The storm clouds swallowed them. Rain hammered against the hull, not water but some chemical compound that sizzled and burned. Lightning struck the ship's shields, making the lights flicker. Jackson wrestled with the controls, his knuckles white. I can't hold her steady. You don't need to hold her steady. You just need to keep her flying. Santos pulled up the tactical display. There, the Peaceful Dawn, 200 kilometers. Through the viewport, they could see it now. The colony ship was huge, built for slow, safe travel between worlds. It was never meant to fight gravity, never meant to survive this hell. Parts of the hull were already glowing red-hot. Pieces were breaking off, tumbling into the atmosphere to burn. Open a channel to them, Santos said. A moment later, a Zentari face appeared on the screen. His eyes were wide with terror. His fur was matted with sweat. Who is this? Captain Maria Santos of the UESS Indomitable. We're here to get you out. The Zentari stared at her. Behind him, Santos could hear screaming, alarms, crying children. You came? But the council said no one could survive the descent. The council doesn't know humans very well. Santos managed a tight smile. How many can you evacuate at once? Our shuttles are damaged. We can't launch. We're trapped. Then we come to you. Stand by. Santos switched channels. Shuttle teams, you're up. I need 3 shuttles in the air now. Load as many as you can carry. We run continuous rotations until everyone is off that ship. Ma'am, said Lieutenant Park from the shuttle bay, the gravity down there, it's 3 times Earth normal. The winds are hurricane force. Our shuttles aren't rated for... I know what they're rated for, Lieutenant. I also know we don't leave people behind. Are you telling me you can't fly in bad weather? A pause, then Park laughed. It was a crazy sound full of adrenaline and fear and determination. No, ma'am. I'm saying it's going to be a hell of a ride. Then strap in and get flying. The first shuttle launched. Inside, Corporal Davis and his team wore heavy gravity suits. The suits would help, but not much. 3 times Earth gravity meant every movement was exhausting. Every breath was work. But humans trained for this. Humans prepared for worlds that wanted to kill them. The shuttle fought through the storm. Davis watched the pilot, Ensign Kowalski, maneuver with skill that bordered on supernatural. Human reflexes, human adaptability, evolved on a death world where being slow meant being dead. They reached the peaceful dawn and clamped onto an airlock. Davis and his team moved into the colony ship. The Zentari inside stared at them like they were ghosts, like they were miracles. Everyone who can walk, follow us, Davis called out. If you can't walk, we'll carry you. Move, move, move. The Zentari stumbled toward them. In the heavy gravity of their dying ship's desperate angle, even walking was difficult for them. A child fell. Davis scooped him up without breaking stride. The kid weighed almost nothing to his death world muscles. They loaded 50 Zentari into the shuttle. It was designed for 30. Kowalski didn't complain. She just flew. Back on the Indomitable, Santos watched the countdown. 70 minutes left, 65. The first shuttle docked and unloaded. The Zentari refugees stumbled into the cargo bay crying with relief. Human medics rushed forward. Second shuttle away, reported Chen. Then the third shuttle. Then the first shuttle launched again. Again and again. The human crews worked without stopping. Loading, flying, unloading. The pilots flew through conditions that would have grounded any sane person. Lightning struck Kowalski's shuttle 3 times. She kept flying. In the cargo bay, a young Zentari girl tugged on a medic's sleeve. Why did you come? She asked. Everyone said we would die. Everyone said it was impossible. The medic, a woman named Rodriguez, knelt down. She was bleeding from a cut on her forehead, injured during a rough docking. She smiled anyway. Because you needed help, sweetie. That's all the reason humans need. On the council station, Ambassador Thronak watched the rescue unfold. The shuttles should have been torn apart. The pilots should have been crushed by the gravity. The ship should have been destroyed by the storms. But the humans kept going. They flew like they were born in storms. They moved like the gravity meant nothing. How are they doing this? Someone asked. Thronak thought about Earth. About the reports he'd read. Hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes. Predators with teeth like knives. Diseases that killed millions. And through it all, humans survived. They didn't just survive. They ran into the danger. They saved others. They're Deathworlders, Thronak said quietly. They're doing what Deathworlders do. 50 minutes left. 40. The peaceful dawn was breaking apart faster now. Whole sections were venting atmosphere. The human crews pushed harder. No breaks. No rest. Santos watched her people work. She saw Lieutenant Park fly through a debris field that should have killed him. She saw Davis carry an injured Zentari elder on his back, through a corridor that was actively collapsing. She saw Chen coordinate 6 shuttles at once, her voice never wavering despite the exhaustion. This was humanity. This was what they did best. Not because it was easy, not because it was logical, but because someone needed help. 20 minutes. 2,000 Zentari evacuated. 1,000 to go. The race against time was far from over. The explosion shook both ships. Alarms screamed across every channel. On the Indomitable's bridge, Santos watched in horror as a massive section of the Peaceful Dawn's hull tore away and tumbled into the atmosphere below. Report! Their reactor containment just failed. Chen's voice was tight. They're venting radiation. Core temperature is rising fast. Santos felt ice in her veins. How many still on board? 800, including the shuttle team that just docked. 800 people, more than a quarter of the colonists. And now the ship was dying even faster. The reactor would go critical in minutes, maybe seconds. When it did, everyone still on board would die instantly. Captain Jackson said quietly, "We need to pull back. If that reactor goes, the blast could cripple us too." Santos stared at the dying ship. 800 people. She thought about the little girl who asked why they came. She thought about every human who ever ran into danger because someone needed help. She thought about Earth, the planet that taught humanity that giving up meant death. "No," she said. "Get me Chief Ramirez." A moment later, the chief engineer's face appeared on screen. He was in the shuttle bay, covered in grease and sweat. "Captain, how fast can you stabilize a failing reactor core?" Ramirez blinked. "On a Zentari colony ship? I'd need to see it. But those old cores, if they're going critical, maybe 10 minutes if we're lucky. If we're not lucky, we die trying. I need you to go over there and buy us time. We still have 800 people to evacuate." For a moment, Ramirez was silent. Then he grinned. It was the kind of grin that said he was either crazy or brave or both. "You know that reactor is spilling enough radiation to cook most species in minutes, right?" "I know. Good thing we're from Earth then." Ramirez turned to his team. "Chen, Martinez, Okafor, grab the emergency repair kit. We're going to do something really stupid." Santos switched back to the main channel. "All shuttles continue evacuation. You have maybe 15 minutes before that ship becomes a fireball. Make them count." Across the galaxy, the Council watched in stunned silence. The human ship should have retreated. Any logical species would have saved who they could and left. The mathematics of survival said you don't risk your ship for a lost cause, but humans weren't logical. Not about this. Ramirez and his team suited up in heavy radiation gear. The suits would help, but not much. Not against the levels they were about to face. They took the fastest shuttle and burned toward the peaceful dawn. "This is insane," muttered Okafor as they crossed the gap. "Completely," agreed Martinez. "You got anywhere better to be?" "Nope." They docked at the engineering section. The Geiger counters on their suits immediately screamed warnings. Red lights flashed everywhere. The radiation levels would have killed a Zentari instantly, would have killed most species before they took 3 steps. But humans evolved on Earth. Earth, where natural radiation was higher than most garden worlds. Earth, where early humans survived near nuclear disaster zones and kept going. Humans had dense bones, redundant systems, DNA that repaired itself faster than it should. It wouldn't save them forever, but it might buy them the minutes they needed. "Okay," said Ramirez, studying the reactor display. "This is bad. Really bad. The containment field is at 15%. Core temperature is past the red line. Can we fix it?" asked Chen. "We can slow it down. Maybe." Ramirez pulled out tools. "Okafor, I need you to manually restart the cooling system." "Martinez, reroute power from life support to the containment field." "Chen, you're with me on the core itself." They moved fast. Every second counted. Every heartbeat was one closer to critical failure. The radiation burned through their suits. Ramirez could feel it like fire in his bones. His hands shook slightly as he worked. Not from fear, from the radiation cooking his nervous system. Meanwhile, the shuttles continued their desperate runs. Park flew through debris that was getting thicker by the minute. Pieces of hull plate, equipment, things he didn't want to identify. He gritted his teeth and kept flying. In the peaceful dawn's corridors, Davis and his team were loading the last of the mobile survivors. The Zentari moved slowly, terrified, exhausted. Davis wanted to scream at them to hurry, but they were doing their best. They were civilians, not soldiers, parents with children, elderly people, the injured. "Come on, people," he called out, forcing his voice to sound calm, nice and steady. "That's it. You're doing great." A Zentari mother stumbled. Her child fell from her arms. Davis caught the kid before he hit the floor. "I got you, buddy. You're okay." "I'm scared," the child whispered. "Me too," Davis admitted. "But see that shuttle? My friend is flying that. She's the best pilot I know. She's going to get us out of here." In the reactor room, alarms were screaming so loud that Ramirez could barely hear himself think. His vision was starting to blur. His hands felt clumsy. The radiation was eating through even his enhanced Deathworld physiology. "Containment at 20%, reported Chen. Her voice sounded distant. "Not enough. We need 30 to stabilize." Ramirez's fingers flew over the controls. He was running calculations in his head, trying to remember training that felt like it happened to someone else. "Martinez, how's that power rewrote?" "Almost got it." The lights flickered. The reactor display changed. 22%, 25, 28. Come on, Ramirez whispered. Come on, you piece of junk. Hold together. On the Indomitable, Santos watched the timer count down. 10 minutes until catastrophic failure 9. The shuttles were still running. Still loading. Still flying. Captain, said Chen, if we don't pull out in the next 5 minutes, we won't be able to escape the blast radius, I know. Captain, I know, Chen. Santos gripped her chair harder. But we're not leaving until everyone is off that ship. 8 minutes. 7. In the reactor room, Ramirez slammed his fist against a control panel. 30%. The containment field stabilized. The core temperature started to drop. Just a little. Just enough. We did it, breathed Okafor. We actually did it. How long will it hold? Asked Martinez. Ramirez checked the displays. Everything looked fuzzy. He blinked hard, trying to focus. 8 minutes. Maybe 9. That's not enough time. It's what we've got. Ramirez keyed his communicator. Captain, reactor is stable. You've got 8 minutes. Santos's voice came back, strong and clear. Copy that, Chief. Get your team out of there. That's an order. Yes, ma'am. Moving now. Ramirez and his team stumbled toward the airlock. Every step was agony. The radiation had done its work. They would need serious medical care. Maybe they'd never fully recover. But 800 people would live because they bought these minutes. The last shuttle loaded. Davis did a final sweep of the corridors. Empty. Everyone was accounted for. Park, we're good. Get us out of here. The shuttle screamed away from the peaceful dawn just as Ramirez's team reached their own ship. 4 minutes left on the reactor. 3. All shuttles docked, reported Chen. Everyone's aboard. Santos allowed herself one breath of relief. Jackson, get us clear. Maximum burn, now. The Indomitable turned and fired its engines. Behind them, the peaceful dawn fell toward the planet. Its reactor was holding, but barely. 2 minutes, 1. They were 500 kilometers clear when the colony ship exploded. The blast was visible even through the storm clouds. A brief, brilliant star that marked the end of a ship and the beginning of something else. In the cargo bay, 3,000 Zentari held each other and cried. Not from grief. From relief, from joy, from disbelief that they were still alive. A Zentari elder approached Rodriguez, who was treating Ramirez for radiation exposure. You saved us, the elder said simply. All of us. How do we thank you? Rodriguez looked up. Her eyes were tired but bright. You don't need to thank us. You just need to live. That's enough. On the council station, Thronak watched the Indomitable limping away from the planet. The human ship had taken damage. Their crew was injured. By all logical calculations, they had risked too much. But all 3,000 colonists lived. Impossible, someone whispered. No, said Thronak. Not impossible. Just very, very human. The Indomitable burned through space, carrying its impossible cargo. In the medical bay, doctors worked around the clock. Ramirez and his team were in the worst shape, their bodies ravaged by radiation exposure that would have killed most species outright. But they were alive, healing. Their Deathworld biology refused to quit. Captain Santos walked through the cargo bay where the Zentari refugees had gathered. They had converted it into a temporary shelter. Families huddled together on emergency blankets. Children played quietly in corners, still too scared to laugh but no longer crying. Medical supplies and food rations were stacked against the walls. An elderly Zentari approached Santos. His fur was white with age and he moved slowly. Captain Santos, he said, his voice soft. I am Elder Ven. I speak for our people. Elder. Santos nodded respectfully. We watched your people risk everything for us. We watched them fly through storms, work in deadly radiation, fight impossible odds. Ven's eyes glistened. Why, we are strangers. The council itself said we could not be saved. Why did you come? Santos was quiet for a moment. She thought about how to explain it. How to put into words something that was so deeply human it felt like breathing. Elder Ven, where I come from, Earth every day was a struggle to survive. Our weather tried to kill us. Our animals hunted us. Disease, starvation, injury. Death was always close. But you know what? We survived because we helped each other. Because when someone cried for help, others came running. Not because it was easy. Not because it made sense, but because that's what it means to be human. She paused, looking around at her crew, at Jackson, who flew through hell itself, at Davis, who carried children on his back, at Ramirez lying in medical with burns covering half his body but still smiling. "We came because you needed help," Santos said simply. "That's all the reason we needed." Van reached out and took her hand. His grip was weak but sincere. "Then humanity has given us more than our lives. You have given us hope." On the bridge, Chen was monitoring long-range communications. The channels were exploding with chatter. The rescue had been broadcast across the galaxy. Every species with a monitor had watched it happen, and now everyone had opinions. "Captain, you're going to want to hear this," Chen said. Santos climbed back to the bridge. "What is it?" "The Council is in emergency session. They're debating, well, everything. Search and rescue protocols, risk assessment, the definition of acceptable losses." Chen looked up. "We've started a galactic incident just by doing our job." "Good," Santos said. "Maybe some things need debating." On the Council station, the emergency session was indeed chaotic. Species that never agreed on anything were arguing, throwing data, demanding explanations. The humans violated every safety protocol, shouted a Vrelian military commander. They risked their ship, their crew, their lives on a mission that was mathematically unsound. "And they succeeded," countered Thronak quietly. 3,000 lives saved. 0 casualties, by pure luck. Was it luck? Thronak pulled up the rescue footage. "Watch this shuttle, pilot. See how she navigates through debris? Those are not lucky movements. That is skill. Training. Reflexes honed on a world where being slow meant death." He switched to another video. "Watch the engineering team. See how they work in radiation that would kill us instantly? That is not luck. That is biology, evolution, adaptation. They're Deathworlders," someone said dismissively. "Of course they can survive harsh conditions." "You're missing the point," said Ambassador Celine, a rare human representative to the Council. She had been quiet until now, but she stood up, her voice cutting through the noise. "Yes, we're from a death world. Yes, that makes us tough. But that's not why we went. We went because they needed help. Every human in that ship knew the odds, knew they might die. They went anyway. Not because of their biology, because of their choice." The chamber fell silent. "That's the part you don't understand," Celine continued. "You see us as Deathworlders, tough, resilient, hard to kill. And that's true. But what really makes us different is this. We refuse to accept that some people can't be saved. We refuse to do the math and walk away. We'll break every safety protocol, risk everything, push beyond every limit, because someone needs us." She looked around the room. "You want to know what scares me? It's not that the mission was dangerous. It's that 3,000 people were dying, and humanity was the only species that tried. What does that say about the rest of you?" The silence was deafening. Back on the Indomitable, Santos received a priority message. She read it twice, not believing what she was seeing. "Chen, did you see this?" "Yes, ma'am." 4 distress calls. From different sectors. All situations the local authorities deemed unrecoverable. Santos scrolled through them. A research station on a volcanic world. A transport ship caught in an asteroid field. A mining colony trapped by a cave-in on a high-gravity moon. Every single one was a death sentence by standard protocols. "They're asking for us specifically," Chen said. "Asking for humans. Because they know we're crazy enough to try." Santos smiled. It was a tired smile but genuine. "Plot courses. Let's see which one we can reach first." "Captain, we're damaged. The crew is exhausted. We should return to base for repairs and rest." "And let people die while we're fixing up?" Santos shook her head. "We'll manage. We always do." In the medical bay, Ramirez heard the new orders. He tried to sit up, gasping at the pain. "Doc, I need to get back to engineering." "You need to stay in bed," the doctor said firmly. "You took enough radiation to kill 3 normal people." "Good thing I'm not normal then." Ramirez swung his legs off the bed. His skin was covered in burns. His hands shook, but his eyes were clear. "We've got new missions. People need help. I'm not laying here while my ship needs me. You're insane." "Yeah." Ramirez grinned. "It's a human thing." Across the ship, the crew prepared. No one complained. No one asked for rest. Jackson checked his flight systems. Park patched his damaged shuttle. Davis loaded new supplies. Chen coordinated with the new distress calls. In the cargo bay, the Zentari watched in amazement. "They're preparing for another mission." Fen said to Rodriguez. But they're hurt, tired. Their ship is damaged. Rodriguez was cleaning her equipment, getting ready. Yes, don't they need rest? We'll rest when everyone's safe. But there will always be more people in danger. You can't save everyone. Rodriguez looked at him. Her eyes were kind but determined. Maybe not, but we can try, and we will, because that's what humans do. A young Zentari stepped forward. His name was Kellen, and he had studied human culture before the disaster. I want to help, he said. I want to join your crew. You sure? Rodriguez asked. It's dangerous work, I'm sure. You saved my life. You saved all our lives. I want to learn to do what you do. More Zentari came forward, offering their skills, their strength, their courage. The humans had shown them something they never knew existed, the willingness to run toward danger instead of away from it. Santos watched from the bridge. She saw her crew preparing, saw the Zentari volunteers joining them, saw the messages flooding in from across the galaxy, some praising, some criticizing, but all talking about what humanity had done. Captain, Chen said softly, they're calling it the Infernus Rescue. It's all over the galactic net. Some species are calling us heroes, others are calling us reckless fools. Both are probably right, Santos said. What matters is 3,000 people are alive who weren't going to be. That's what I'll remember. The Council wants to speak with you. They want to understand how we did it. Santos smiled. Tell them the truth. We did it the Deathworld way. We looked at the impossible, said watch this, and went in anyway. The Indomitable set course for the next emergency. Behind them, the peaceful Dawn's wreckage burned in Infernus Prime's atmosphere. But ahead of them, people were waiting, hoping, calling for help, and the Deathworlders were coming. In the council chamber, Thronek watched the human ship accelerate toward another impossible rescue. He thought about his own people, safe, logical, careful. They survived by avoiding risk, by calculating odds, by accepting losses. But humans didn't accept losses. They fought. They struggled. They threw themselves into danger because someone needed help. They're going to change everything, Thronek said to himself. Beside him, Celine smiled. We already have. 3 months had passed since the Infernus rescue. The galaxy had not stopped talking about it. The Indomitable returned to human space after completing 2 more impossible rescues. The Volcanic Research Station, the Asteroid Field Transport, both successful, both against all odds. The ship limped into dock at Frontier Station 7, her hull scarred and patched, her crew exhausted but alive. Captain Santos stood on the docking bridge and watched the crowds. Hundreds of beings from dozens of species had gathered. They held signs, banners, some cried. Others cheered. She had never seen anything like it. What's all this? She asked Jackson. They're here for us, Captain. Word spread. Everyone wants to see the ship that did the impossible. Santos felt uncomfortable. We were just doing our job. Maybe. But apparently nobody else was willing to do it. They disembarked to a storm of attention. News crews from every major species pushed forward. Questions flew like bullets. Santos tried to wave them off, but Ambassador Selene appeared through the crowd. Captain Santos, if you would come with me. The Council has requested your presence. Am I in trouble? Selene smiled. Quite the opposite. The Council chamber was different than Santos expected. She had imagined a trial, accusations. Instead, when she entered, the entire assembly stood, 40 species rising as one. Council Speaker Mirage stepped forward. Her tentacles were colored in what Santos had learned was the Mirashi sign of deep respect. Captain Santos, the Council wishes to formally acknowledge what you and your crew accomplished. We just answered a distress call, Speaker. You did far more than that. Mirage gestured, and the main display lit up. It showed footage from the rescue. You showed us something we had forgotten, or perhaps something we never truly understood. The footage played. Santos watched herself and her crew work. It felt like watching strangers. Had they really done all that? For generations, Mirage continued, the Council has operated on principles of logic and calculation. We assess risk. We determine acceptable losses. We make the hard choices. She paused. But we had become so focused on survival that we forgot why survival matters. You reminded us, Ambassador Thronek stood. Captain Santos, I personally opposed your rescue mission. I called it suicide. I was wrong. Not about the danger that was real, but about something more important. I forgot that sometimes the right thing to do is also the hardest thing to do. More ambassadors stood. One by one they spoke. Some admitted they had doubted. Others said they were inspired. A few were still skeptical but acknowledged the results. Santos listened, feeling overwhelmed. Finally, the Zentari ambassador approached. Elder Ven was with him. Ven looked healthier now, his fur groomed, his eyes bright. Captain Santos, Ven said, my people have made a decision. We wish to establish a permanent alliance with humanity. But more than that, we wish to learn from you. To understand your way of seeing the universe. Our way? Yes, the way that says no one is beyond saving. The way that runs toward danger instead of away. The Deathworld way. Ven smiled. We may never be as strong as humans, as resilient, but perhaps we can learn to be as brave. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Several other species expressed interest in similar arrangements, trade agreements, cultural exchanges, military partnerships. The humans had proven something that changed everything. Later, Santos found herself in a quieter room with a smaller group. Military leaders from various species. They wanted to understand the tactics, the training, the mindset. How did your pilots fly through those storms? Asked a Vrelian commander. Our simulations say it should have been impossible. Earth has storms too, Santos explained. Our pilots train in conditions that would ground your ships. We practice emergency maneuvers in gravity wells. We prepare for the worst because Earth taught us the worst is always possible. And your engineer, said another. The radiation should have killed him. Should have, yes. But humans evolved on a world with higher background radiation than most garden worlds. We have biological advantages. But more than that, Ramirez knew the risk and went anyway, because people needed him. That's the part we don't understand, the Vrelian said. The conscious choice to risk certain death. How do you train for that? Santos thought about it. You can't train someone to care about strangers, to feel responsible for people they've never met. That comes from somewhere else. From culture, from values, from remembering that we all started as people who needed help to survive. She looked around the room. Earth was brutal. Humans died by the millions from disease, predators, weather, starvation. We only survived because we helped each other. Because when someone fell, others picked them up. That's in our DNA now. Not literally, but culturally. We can't not help. It's who we are. The military leaders were silent, processing this. Back on the Indomitable, the crew was celebrating their return. Someone had smuggled real Earth beer onto the station. The cargo bay was converted into a party space. Music played. People danced. For the first time in months, they could relax. Ramirez sat in a corner, his body still healing but improving. Kellen, the young Zentari, sat beside him asking questions. Did you know you would survive the radiation? Kellen asked. No, Ramirez admitted. I hoped. But I didn't know. Then why did you do it? Because hoping I'd survive and knowing people would die if I didn't made the choice pretty easy. Kellen absorbed this. I want to be like that. Like humans. You already are, kid. You volunteered, didn't you? You stepped up when others needed help. That's the first step. Across the bay, Rodriguez was talking to a group of Zentari who had joined the Indomitable's crew. They wore human uniforms now, modified for their physiology. They were training as medics, engineers, support staff, the first non-humans to join a human search and rescue vessel. It won't be easy, Rodriguez warned them. The missions are dangerous. The hours are long. You'll be scared, exhausted. Sometimes you'll wonder why you signed up for this. But we'll save lives, said one of the Zentari. Yes, we'll save lives. Then it's worth it. Rodriguez smiled. They understood. They really understood. Up in the command center, Santos was reviewing new mission requests. Chen was right, they were flooding in. But something had changed. Other species were starting to respond too. A Vrelian ship had attempted a difficult rescue last week. They succeeded. A Mirashi medical team had gone into a plague zone everyone else abandoned. They saved hundreds. The humans had started something. A movement. A change in thinking. Captain, Chen said, there's a message for you, priority. From the outer reaches. Santos opened it. It was a distress call from a colony on a frozen world. The colony was under attack by unknown hostiles. Local defense forces were overwhelmed. Casualties were mounting. Help needed immediately. The message ended with a specific request. Please send humans. Santos looked at her crew. still celebrating, still recovering, still exhausted from their last missions. She should give them more time. She should let another ship handle it. But people were dying, and they specifically asked for humans. For the crazy Deathworlders who didn't know when to quit, Santos keyed the intercom. Attention all hands. I hate to cut the party short, but we have a situation. Hostile attack on a colony in the outer reaches. They need immediate assistance. The music stopped. The crew looked up at the speakers. We're still undergoing repairs, Santos continued. We're still recovering from our last missions. Anyone who needs to sit this one out, no judgment. But if you're ready to go, we launch in 2 hours. She turned off the intercom and waited. Wondered if she was pushing too hard. Asking too much. 2 minutes later, Jackson appeared in the command center. Plotting course now, Captain. Then Park. My shuttle is ready. Then Davis. Then Ramirez, walking with a slight limp but grinning. Then Rodriguez. Then the entire crew, one by one, returning to their stations. And behind them came the Zentari volunteers. Kellen and his friends wearing their new uniforms, ready to help. Are you sure? Santos asked them. This will be your first real mission. Combat situation. Very dangerous. We're sure, Kellen said. You taught us that when people need help, you go. No matter what. We're ready to learn the Deathworld way. Santos felt pride surge through her. Then let's go save some lives. The Indomitable powered up her engines. Around the station, other ships watched. Some joined the mission. A Vrelian destroyer, 2 Marashi medical ships, a dozen vessels from species that had never done search and rescue before but were willing to try. The humans had changed something fundamental. They showed the galaxy that some things mattered more than safety. More than logic. More than careful calculation. Sometimes you had to risk everything because someone needed help. Sometimes impossible just meant nobody had tried hard enough yet. Sometimes the right choice was also the dangerous choice. Ambassador Thronak watched the small fleet depart from the council station. He thought about how much had changed in 3 months. How many species were reconsidering their protocols? How many lives had been saved that would have been written off as acceptable losses? They're going to rewrite everything we know about search and rescue, said another ambassador. No, Thronak corrected. They're going to rewrite everything we know about compassion, about duty, about what it means to be civilized. He watched the Indomitable accelerate into the darkness, leading a fleet toward danger, toward impossible odds, toward people who needed help. The Deathworlders heard the distress signal, Thronak said softly. And the galaxy will never be the same. Across the stars, the message spread. When you're in trouble, when all hope is lost, when every logical species has calculated your odds and walked away, send a signal, send it into the darkness and hope. Because somewhere out there the Deathworlders are listening, and they always come. They don't come because it's easy, not because it's safe, not because the odds are good. They come because someone needs help, and that's all the reason Deathworlders need. The galaxy had witnessed what happened when humans heard a distress call. It watched them fly through hell, watched them work in lethal radiation, watched them refuse to accept that anyone was beyond saving, and the galaxy learned. Some species would never understand. They would stick to their careful calculations and acceptable losses. But others learned. Others changed. Others looked at humanity and saw not just Deathworlders, but something more important. They saw hope. In the darkest places of the galaxy, where danger lurked and death seemed certain, there was now a new possibility. A new chance. Because the Deathworlders had shown everyone that impossible was just a word. That with enough courage, enough determination, enough refusal to give up, anything could be overcome. The Indomitable and her fleet jumped to faster than light speed, racing toward another impossible mission. Captain Santos sat in her chair and smiled. This was what humanity did best. This was their gift to the galaxy. When others heard a distress signal and calculated the risk, humans heard something different. They heard someone calling for help, and they answered,